All right, so for today's lesson we're going to talk about resumes, and we're going to be working on a professional resume. The thing is that a resume is a personal document, so everybody's might be slightly different. I'm going to give you recommendations that you can use for a span of time, because I'm going to talk to you about what the process is behind why we put information in there in certain places and how we do that. So I know everybody has an opinion on how to do resumes. For those of you who don't know me, I've been a recruiter for about 25 years, so I've hired thousands of people and I've seen thousands of resumes. So I'm here to give you tips that I learned from 25 years as a recruiter, and to help you to get your resume ready. My personal goal is hopefully every one of the students who comes through my class gets the job that they're looking for and is happy with their resume and wows recruiters. I've gotten some great feedback to that effect, so hopefully I'm on the right track here. So let's get started. The first thing that you need is a letterhead. Now, this may seem like an old-fashioned sort of notion, but I want you to think of it as the recruiter only sees this on the screen, and this is you. This represents you. What do you want to say about yourself? Okay, so this is where you're going to put the contact information, and this is going to vary by person. I want to show you, I just Googled resume letterheads, and some of these are really fancy and sort of unnecessary, and I want to also tell you, please don't use a template. There are a couple of reasons to not use a template. One is they're notoriously inflexible. So when you want to go back and make changes, they're not going to let you make the changes. The formatting will get wonky, and you can't sort of play with it. And it is a living, breathing, changing document. So in order to have that flexibility, you need it to be just a standard document. Okay. Two is recruiters who see thousands of resumes a year have seen every template, and what it says to them is that you're unoriginal, that you don't have your own brand, you can't think for yourself. Now maybe that's extreme, but it could be a consequence of this. So I really want you to just consider making your own. Now, if you're going into a creative field, obviously you're going to be looking at one of these sort of fancier, like this. If you're going to go and you want to work for a florist, maybe you'll use this. Or if you're going to be a marketing person, basically you want to come up with your own brand that you'll use on all of your documents. Regardless, the letterhead is used on every page of your application. The same one is used for resume, cover letter, references. Same one, just use one. Okay. So again, what is your brand? Even for people who are in accounting or IT, I recommend maybe a little something. So let's see if I can find, usually I recommend to people that they just have a little something in the corner. I mean, this is an idea. If you can see this, the name's over here, and then the contact information's over here. This is obviously a cover letter, but it's a letterhead nonetheless. You can do initials, or you can do the standard like we have here on this resume. You can find this resume on the USI website and Career Services, and it's also posted on your Blackboard site. So this is obviously very simple, but it gets the job done. So this is something you could use if you feel like this suits you, that this says this is who I am, then you could use something like this. Doesn't have to be anything completely out of the ordinary. All right, so we've talked about letterhead. Make sure that you have your cell phone, your email address, and your LinkedIn address. So on LinkedIn, remember that you can go in and shorten your URL. Let's see if it will. I think I'm already logged in here. All right, so what I would do is go to my profile, and right here it says edit public profile and URL. So I can click on that, and it will give me I can do a personalized URL here. So I can make it something that's really nice, short and sweet, and it's going to be very, very important. If you don't have a LinkedIn page that you're proud of, that's something that there's some information within this course that can help you with that, but the LinkedIn account is key, and you need to make sure it's in your letterhead. Okay, so you don't have to use a physical address unless if you're living in Evansville but you're going to relocate to Chicago. If you have a Chicago address, go ahead and use it, so that when a recruiter gets your resume, they don't have to try to figure out, why is this Evansville person wanting to come to Chicago? Because typically for entry-level type positions that a new graduate would seek, there are not monies for relocation expenses. So it would have to be, I voluntarily want to move to Chicago. All right. So objective, I usually recommend no objective unless it's really important. So for example, if I if I studied, say, IT, but I want to be in human resources, I definitely would want to do an objective statement to that effect. But you do not have to have an objective, and I do not recommend this key skills here. So these things should be with your work experience. We'll get to that in a little bit. So education. This is a great way to list your education. In fact, I want you to follow this template unless you have a better way. One thing I might suggest is to move the date out to this margin so it balances the look of it, because the look of it actually matters. When you finish with your resume, make sure you step back and take a look, make sure it looks balanced. So remember that being AACSB accredited College of Business matters, because most people outside of this region have never heard of USI. So if you're applying for a job in St. Louis, for example, they may not have heard of USI. Some people in our own state haven't. It's a sad fact. But showing that you came from an accredited school should quiet those concerns about the type of education that you got. So on GPAs, anything over 3.0 we list. Anything under 3.0, we simply stay silent about it. Now, if you're an accounting major and you don't have a 3.0, you already know that you're going to have some trouble getting a job. So the accounting firms want you to put your GPA on there, and it better be above 3.0. Honestly, for those of you who are concerned, my undergrad GPA, I got to tell you, 2.8. I worked a lot, and I did have some fun. I'm not going to lie to you. I did have some fun. But it didn't stop me from being successful in my career. So if your GPA isn't where you want it to be, but you have great experience and you have a good personality and you have a good work ethic, you're going to be just fine. So just leave it off of here if it's not 3.0. But we definitely want to put what your degree is in. And if you have any certificates or anything like that. Any other honors or activities that are related to academics can go here. Study abroad. And if you have a 4.0, putting that you have the dean's list is pretty redundant. You can put it on there, but if your space is a premium, you may want to rethink that. Okay. So essentially, that's education. This needs to be your graduation date. You do not put a start date. So it's not like, in this case it'd be what, August of 2004 to, May of 2008. Whoops. And then it's only your graduation date. So if you're not yet graduated, so if it's, your graduation date is pending, say you expect to graduate in May of 2021, you would put expected May of 2021, because you're already saying you're a candidate for this degree. So when you expect to graduate, no one's going to hold you to this. It doesn't have to be, you just basically take a guess based on what you're on track to do. So letterhead, check. Education. Now we're going to look at experience. This is probably where students ask me the most amount of questions, is on experience. So what we want to do is, it's always chronological from the most recent, working our way back. All right? So we're gonna put the month and the year. Current job goes first, or most recent. Work your way back. And what we wanna do is we wanna add KSAs, knowledge, skills, and abilities. So if you worked at Subway, obviously you made sandwiches, right? So what we wanna talk about, what's transferable about that? Food safety regulations, customer service, cleanliness, teamwork. So we want to make sure to keep in mind all those things that you learned there that you can transfer to an accounting internship. Detail orientation, and you want to be able to sort of explain those things. That's what these bullet points are for. Never ever use narrative text here. Recruiters look like, they go through resumes like this. That's literally how fast we look through them. So if you have narrative text, my eyes are not going to see it. So what I'm looking for, actually, when I'm quickly viewing that first cut of resumes, I'm looking at these verbs. Now you'll find posted on your Blackboard site the list of resume verb options. So you can switch these up a little bit. One of the gripes I have with this resume, it's not perfect, by the way, obviously, is that it's a present tense. It's a present job, but the person has past tense verbs, so make sure your verbs match. And you don't want to do, manage, 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 manage. That's where the resume verb list comes in handy. And they're broken down by different categories. So it's customer service skills, if it's leadership skills, it gives you a lot of words to choose from, because we can kind of get lost in trying to find the right words, okay? And then I would go ahead and mix internships and volunteer work that is substantial. So let's say, for example, you volunteer to do work that someone else could get paid to do. So last summer I worked at River Kitty Cat Cafe. I did their social media and their policies, and I also was in the cat room. I got paid very little, but it was essentially volunteer work. So I would add this in there as well instead of a sort of this community service, because it was all summer and it was substantial. And it was, I did basically the social media aspect of it. It was something new for me. I really had never worked with a company's social media. And also it sort of sharpened my skills in writing policy manuals. So something that's useful there. So what experiences have you had, and what is transferable? So if it's a substantial that you're there for a long time, or it's an internship, then you're gonna wanna have maybe this closer to like 5-6 bullet points. If it's a short, or maybe instead of a human resources intern here, maybe this is the Subway job, maybe you just do a couple bullet points there. And what's gonna happen is, as you build your career, some of these smaller things are gonna start to roll off. So the question of, should it be 1 page or 2 pages? The reason why we sort of talk about it being 1 page is because when I am looking at these, and they're always gonna be online, I look at the preview screen. This is what I know about you, this preview screen. So if you go on and on and on and you bury the lead, I'm not gonna see it. So first thing I'm looking for in a professional resume is education, because you have to have the education to get through the door to have a chance at the job. So if you don't have the education listed first, I'm gonna move on to find somebody who has it listed first, because I'm not gonna scrub through this and try to find it, okay? So keep in mind that this preview screen, this is your prime real estate. So make it look good, make it count. And then if you have to go to a second page, it had better be useful information, okay? So as you can see, this person had a substantial amount of experience for a college student and was still able to get everything on 1 page, okay? So that's your experience. Now, optionals activities. Some of the things, if you are a scholarship athlete, student athlete, on scholarship, I would put it up here, because most recruiters understand that being a scholarship student athlete is a full-time job. And then, and if you also have a high GPA, that's showing a whole lot of grit, determination, time management skills, all those important things, the ability to manage two very different, very important things at the same time and do it well. So I would put it here. If you have activities related to, like on this person's, they have some of their volunteer work here. Mainly, I'm looking at volunteer work that enhances your employability. Now, one thing I want to talk to you about, it's not too late to get some of that experience. So, you know, people in my 231 class will say, well, how am I supposed to get experience for an internship that requires experience? Usually it's through volunteer work. So you might go to your, you know, your religious organization, your, you know, family, friends, small business, and just say, hey, can I volunteer to update your social media or do your books or whatever's related to your career field, and that way you'll be able to get some more experience. So I think it's great that this person did this great work, and it's commendable, but in an employment situation, is it necessary? Probably not. Now, if you have the space and you need to fill it with something, sure, this will be just fine. Okay. So if you have questions about activities, should this be on, should this not be on, just let me know. Send me an email or give me a call and let me know. One thing I want to make sure, no high school. Now there is one exception. If you received an international baccalaureate diploma for high school, then you can leave it on your education experience. Okay, so the IB is internationally recognized as the gold standard of high school education. So you can leave it on there for a while. Other than that, the rest of us who got regular high school diplomas, like me, we do not put those on there. Now, no high school sports, no high school honors. Obviously, if you had a job and that job happened to be during the time you were in high school, sure, go ahead and obviously you're gonna add that. But all those honors and accolades you got in high school, I'm sorry, but you have to let go of them because they're not relevant anymore now that you've gone through your college experience. So I was valedictorian. I also grieved the day that I couldn't use that anymore because I worked so hard for that. So I'm with you on how much that stinks, but here we are. So those are the basics of putting together a professional resume. So again, if you have questions, comments, concerns, shoot me an email, get a hold of me in some kind of way, and I will help you the best I can. Even when you're not my student anymore, feel free to contact me and ask me any questions that you might have. So that does it for our resume lecture. Thanks for listening.